inventory as optimal as possible if I'm responsible for operations. Lack of real-time visibility and fragile logistics networks. You've seen these problems. You're seeing us on a day-to-day basis. And keep in mind, just because I'm a small or a medium-sized enterprise doesn't shield me from any of these problems. Because even my business is global. My suppliers are also global. I am also impacted by tariffs, right? If I'm an automotive supplier, which is where I'm consulting today, absolutely impacted on tariffs because I'm a tier 1 supplier, but then, my customers are actually saying, look, what are you going to do to actually mitigate this tariff? Same questions all over. Doesn't mean I'm not because I'm a small and medium-sized enterprise. Fair? Okay. What did we learn? Resilience, visibility, and operational efficiency. Okay? Now, you will see resilience. We're going to talk about, you've heard a lot of talks today about resilience. Visibility also, you heard a lot about talks on visibility. But let's talk about the operational efficiency piece also, because that's another important component that companies can still continue to focus on. And what I mean by that is, operationally, look, AI is fantastic, right? It's going to be the solve for all our problems. Even if there is a marriage problem, AI will solve it for us, right? Kids, if your kids are giving you a hard time, AI can tell you how to deal with it. Great, got it? But importantly, what is also important is, before we implement AI, we need to have an operation that is absolutely top-notch, and we need to continue to focus on that. Because AI is not going to solve your operational inefficiencies problems. AI is not going to be a solve for it. If you have bad data, AI is not a solve for bad data. Likewise, if your people have processes that they are not following, AI is not going to solve it. Got it? Okay, let's talk about resilience. Just a definition, meaning the structure, plans, agility, foresight to enable us to adapt quickly. So, right? How are companies working? How are small and medium-sized companies working to build resilience? What are we doing? Diversifying our supply basis, inventory buffer, flexible logistics, scenario planning, and so on and so forth. All this also you have seen elsewhere. However, let's look at regionalization. Of course, if we talk about regionalization, does a smaller business, let's say in my case where I'm consulting for a small and medium-sized manufacturer, what do we have is regionalization is important, but right now, what is my supply base looking at? If I'm procuring steel, I have 2 suppliers that I can either go to. That's it. That's how prepared I am. Do I have any lever in terms of negotiating with these suppliers if I have a problem? No chance. If I just 2, I can only say, boss, your prices are too high, but that's the best I can do. Because I don't have the ability to actually even go look for sourcing. I'm just not. My people are all busy doing the day-to-day operations. They are busy shipping the orders out the door. And they're not focused on building that truly, I want to have a network of suppliers and I can say, if this guy gives me a hard time, I can go here, I can go here, I can go here. I don't have the intelligence. I don't have the time, right? Multi-sourcing, 2 things, right? One is multi-sourcing, and the other one is regionalization. Those could be fantastic, but I don't have the ability to do it. But today I do. How do I do it? How do I do it? What are the challenges that I see with regionalization or sourcing? Few things, right? First of all, companies don't even know their true landed costs for any product. If I'm going to get this from China, what is my landed cost? Freight, transportation, tariffs, handling, everything including, what is my landed cost? I have no idea. I just think China is much better than India, for example, or China, but I don't have numbers to prove it. Okay, that's one challenge. But today what we can do is, there are digital tools available, but basically what we did, in this case that I'm talking about, the first thing we did was, we brought all these this different data sources and just kind of built a model that can show us our true landed cost in one. And you're not going to like the tool that we used. It is Excel. You're not going to like it. But that worked for us to get the landed costs. And what does it mean? It is linked to the BOM data, the component data, the HTS code, and the tariff data, and the location. When we did all these three things, then I can play these levers. Hey, if this comes from China, what does it mean for me? If it comes from India, what does it mean for me? If this HTS code comes from Vietnam, what does it mean for me? I have that. So that's how we built that intelligence into this smaller company. That is something a small company can do. Identifying new suppliers, that's another challenge that smaller companies are facing. It's very hard. Because, like I said, the buyers and the planners are busy running the day-to-day operations. But today we have tools like ScoutBee. I'm not promoting ScoutBee, I'm not promoting some of these tools, but that's how we are actually operationalizing it on a day-to-day basis. For example, this tool called ScoutBee, we were actually looking for a steel supplier. I put in the specifications. I have the drawings. This is the thickness that I need. This is the tolerance that I need. This thing gives me 50 suppliers. 50 suppliers. I was dealing with 2 people before. I have 50 now, right? Do I have a little bit more leverage now, right? The ScoutBee is very cool because it does a deep AI search, right? It does the deep AI search, and then basically it is actually giving me who all I can select. And it's pretty cool. Snazzy, we are still testing it out, but that's one. The other lever that we are implementing is something called this a priori. A priori gave us another level of intelligence called should-cost analysis, right? What do I need for my supplier to negotiate with my suppliers is one, I need to know, I need to have a few options, but then I also need to know what should this thing cost me. There is a tool called a priori that is allowing me to actually build that should-cost analysis. Now I can go to Yaku, I can go to you, I can go to here, and whoever gives me, now I'm able to negotiate. And now I also have a model that can show me how tariffs are impacting me, so I have all the intelligence built in. Does it make sense so far? Okay, and the third one is the diligence in the RFP process. Now we have tools and marketplaces that enable RFPs, supplier quotations, and so we can actually easily compare. That's how we are building that resilience. Does it make sense? This is how we are kind of building that regionalization sourcing, supporting the small and medium-sized manufacturers. The first thing I told you about is the resilience. The next one I'm going to talk about is visibility. Okay, those are the challenges. Again, keep in mind, these are the day-to-day things that I see in a small and medium-sized enterprise. That's what they are struggling with. Okay, and we'll come to operational efficiency later, but the second one is visibility. I have no idea why I have so many different systems, but how am I going to integrate that? How am I going to bring all this? What do I have? I have my ERP data. I have my MES data. I have my HR data. I have my accounting data, all these different information. Their supplier portal is there, and then there is a transportation portal. How am I going to integrate all these things? Because that's how I want visibility. Okay? And because if I can integrate all these things together, then boom, then I have much more control as the CEO, Chief Operation Officer, then I have the visibility that I can to make decisions, right? This is just an example, how complex, you saw how complex today's supply chains are. Again, small and medium-sized enterprises are not shielded from this. Visibility and control tower, again, what are we doing here for this company? What are we doing is we are building this visibility layer. Again, you're not going to like what I'm going to say. We are actually building it with Excel, at least for the small company. Bringing all the inventory data, supply data, risk data, transport data, demand data, bringing all this into one tool that I can, and how does this tool look like? I have the component demand by month, by month, by month, all the way for 18 months. Okay, all the way for 18 months, and that tells me if some shipment is going to be delayed, when am I going to be impacted? If I get the supplier ASNs, because by the way, it's sitting in a different portal, but I have linked it, and this model is telling me, hey, if this supplier is going to be delayed, the latest ASN information tells me this shipment that's going to arrive in February is going to be delayed. Now I know exactly which components are going to be impacted because this shipment is going to be delayed. That's how we bring that visibility for the small and medium-sized enterprise. Now, again, I can do analytics. I can do on top of this. Now, this is where I think, I was having a discussion with Yakub earlier. Imagine if we can actually build a AI layer on top of this where I can run all my scenario plans and tell me, hey, what is the impact of this shipment? But that's for a small and medium-sized enterprise, that is the next level of evolution. The first thing I'm trying to do for these enterprises is, what can we do to actually get them to actually run an efficient operation? This is what is allowing them to run an efficient operation, the visibility part. Okay? Again, of a control tower, you can see there's a lot of visibility in every aspect. Optimal inventory levels, accurate demand plan, transportation, load efficiency. You know it. You know what are the benefits of a control tower. End-to-end visibility, management able to react to real-time data. Okay? Again, this is what we did, building an Excel model. But for us, again, as you know, advanced tools like Kinaxis, 𝙤𝙤𝙧𝙚 are bringing that kind of visibility. But these tools are, again, the next level of evolution is what I think. Okay? Third one is efficiency. This is something I'm truly, I harp on efficiency. Why? Because if you don't have a clean house, it doesn't matter what tools we run. Okay, and I'll give you an example of why I say this, because we've all heard all these things, process excellence and standardization, Lean Sigma, workforce technology. We've heard all this, but I'll tell you what kind of leaks are happening in a small and medium-sized enterprise. This company that I was working with earlier, we have a $4 million spend on transportation, $4 million annual spend. Okay? There was a leak of $800,000 that we were able to identify in just 2 months worth of work. 2 months. That's a lot of money, isn't it? $800K on a $4 million budget, whatever the numbers are, right? But what I'm trying to say is that was an inefficiency that was happening just like that. Nobody looked at it. Why? Because everybody is busy getting orders out the door. Hey man, I don't have time to actually look at my transportation spend. I don't have time to look at my transportation spend, which is why this focus on efficiency is hyper important. Why am I talking about this is because I'm an operations consultant. That's what I do, and this is where I focus on. Where are our leaks for a small and medium-sized enterprise? Where are our leaks that we can actually plug, right? Transportation is one of the efficiency. Then I'm saying, what is our inventory levels? Can we clean up our inventory levels? What is our plan to actually address end-of-life items? Those are the inefficiencies. I'll give you a perfect model of operations. This is my chief operating officer in the previous place I was. These were the people around his table. There was the chief operating officer, and then there was the head of supply chain, the head of operations or manufacturing, quality, product management, or engineering, and then PMO. Let's say all these people are sitting around the table. The COO, he did not have to look at any of these departments. You know why? Because everybody in that table ran a very tight ship. Okay, when you look at operations, numbers were at 98% OTIF. 98%, that can be done. That's our target, that was our North Star. Supplier OTIF was about 96, 97%. Quality, if we had a miss, we are immediately addressing it. The head of quality was immediately addressing it with our supplier, wherever the supplier quality issue was. Now, what that vision allowed the COO to do, he could focus on really what was most important for the business. He could focus on product development. Hey, we need to get these new products in the market. I need to focus on AI. He was looking at the strategic initiatives. Okay, I'm good. Yeah, I think this is the vision that we are actually painting for the small and medium-sized enterprise. Got it? Not just the small and medium-sized enterprise, but I'm giving you the idea. How can we do it? What can we do? People, you've heard it. People, process, partners. People, of course, talent that is comfortable with data, ambiguity, and leveraging AI. Now I had to the Scout P that I told you, there is so much resistance even to use a tool that gives you everything. Right? People have to be comfortable with using AI. But that's the people we are looking for. Talent that challenges your notion of speed. God, this is very important. Talent that really challenges your notion of speed. Because today, if we don't move fast, China is already taking over. Absolutely. So talent that challenges your notion of speed, leadership that backs their people that are willing to embrace digital. Okay? And processes that are metrics-driven, and partners. This is a very important thing that I'm passionate about. Why? Because as a small and medium company, we cannot do it all. we need the right partners. We need the right partners because, again, my people are busy shipping orders out the door, right? They don't have the time. But these people can do it. Nimble consulting firms that can focus on quick value creation. Right, I give you the transportation example. 2 months, $800,000 in the bank. Absolutely awesome, right? So firms that can develop a model for inventory optimization in weeks. You don't have the, again, the beauty about a small and medium-sized company, Jakub and I were talking about it, is it's like you don't have too many hierarchy that you need approvals and things like that. You can get those approvals and you can make this happen in weeks. You don't need months and years to make this happen. And the last one, simplistic. I gave you 2 examples of tools. Tools are available. Data-driven, there's a company called Data-Driven Consulting. They can look at your inventory, build an optimal model in weeks. You don't need it for a long, long time. Okay, that's how we build. People, processes, tools, and partners. 4 things that I would leave you with. Okay, what do we learn? Instability is permanent. Regional multi-sourcing strategies absolutely will outperform the lowest cost. Digital tools matter, but it needs operational excellence. Without the operational excellence, it's not going to happen. Okay, but yeah, I just wanted to share what is happening in our industry, in the small and medium-sized enterprise. Just wanted to give you a different perspective on everything that's happening around you. So, thank you.